I'm recording too.
You recording, alright.
Are you ready?
Okay.
Okay,
guys.
Fuck you, Louis Armstrong. You fucking give me a chest infection.
Jesus. Oh God, fuck you. Alright. That's actually going into the video. Anyway, guys. So the topic today is GT.
Louis Armstrong. What?
It's Louis Armstrong and GT, and why we never actually got that cameo.
I think I know the answer to that.
No, guys, I've been thinking a lot about this recently, in terms of exactly GT's character flow or, story flow versus what Super's been doing recently. And, you can sit around and you can judge it one way or the other, which one's better for whatever reasons or something. But personally, I'm kind of at a loss at this point. By the time we're recording this, we've only had 64 episodes of Dragon Ball Super, and as we know, Dragon Ball GT ended around 64 episodes. So I just feel like, with the last two, they got canceled. The last two arcs were super rushed. They obviously had a lot of ideas that they didn't have time for, and that's kind of what I want to discuss. I want to discuss, the Super 17 arc, the Shadow Dragon arc, how it kind of pertained to the Baby arc, and how those stories are basically connected one way or the other. And what were your thoughts on them? Do you think that there was a lot more to explore? What are certain things you'd want to see? And just going off of that, I just want to get us started. Yeah. Personally, I wanted to see the Super 17 arc. I wasn't very thrilled that they decided that 17 would be the main villain, although I guess I understand the thought process that went into that. But personally, I would have wanted to see something else. But they played off of the same trope. They kind of stole from, movie 12 a lot from that arc, and the whole everyone coming back from hell and being a threat again wasn't played off in a really interesting way. It would have been something really cool to see old villains come back for legitimate reasons and have a legitimate beef, and getting fights amongst Goten, Trunks, Pan, and all these other people, just expanded out a little bit more. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why the Super 17 arc had any promise whatsoever was just because it was, had they actually had more time to do anything with it, it was the one arc where they actually, first of all, had everybody fighting on the same side. Because obviously the Baby arc, they had pretty much everybody versus Goku, which solidified it as the Goku show. And it didn't, the Kid Goku show. And I don't really know anybody who's particularly fond of Kid Goku's character in GT. Because he was no longer the fun little naive character he was back in Dragon Ball. He was now a smug little fucker. And it was just like, you just wanted to kick him all the time. But the thing was, with the Super 17 arc, because it was going to be the first time where everyone was fighting the same side and everything, you actually got to see Goten and Trunks fight side by side and stuff. And they were blasting people smugly, and they were working together for it. And those bits were the best bits of the arc. But then they got their asses all kicked, and for some reason decided never to use Gotenks because, why? And then they even asked for permission later on, in the Omega Shenron bit, and they're like, do you think we should transform into Gotenks? And it's like, no, don't bother. And it's like, okay. And it's just there's so many middle fingers in it, and that the main reason that they did it was probably because of the limited writing they had towards that point. So, had they realized that they could have gone actually longer and that they weren't going to get cancelled or something, or had they known some, a bit of nice information about that, I think that they could have done so much more with it, but it's just, to put it bluntly,
that's exactly the Super 17 arc personified with that. Because it could have been so much more. Yes, as you lot pretty much said, how the villains were so underutilized, and then the cast, the Z team, was so underutilized. Why didn't they fuse? It's silly. How come they never? Because end of the day, GT was like the cash grab, wasn't it? After Z, they could have had an adult Gotenks. Essentially, GT is, what Heroes is right now, where he has all this fan servicey stuff that was GT. That arc was the fan service arc, and they could have done so much. And especially for me, I would have just done without the arc. I can't stand the arc. What really I keep dear to my heart is the baby arc, because I still stick by that baby Vegeta is the best looking, one of the best looking characters in Dragon Ball, as well as his story. And I guess we're going to be chatting about that in a bit, but just the whole storyline and the premise potential, the potential they had with these arcs, you can tell that the thinking was there, that these are legitimate Dragon Ball fans and they want to do well, but the execution was just horrible. Horrible.
I like. There's a lot of stuff about the baby arc that I didn't really like, which you can check out if you go and watch another one of Real to Real's videos on his channel, Baby versus Black. If you go and watch that video, you'll hear all of my thoughts about that. So there you go. Go and watch that. But anyway,
Link in the description.
Exactly, Mark. We're making work for you.
I don't have to do anything in this video.
But basically, it's like one of these things where, like, I personally feel like everything that they did between Baby was they had a nice idea, but they convoluted it and wrecked it by sticking loads of crap in it. Like, I think it would have been much better, in my personal opinion, had they just had, like, another version of the Saiyan experience. So, like, how they sent the babies off and, you know, when the planet was blown up, there was just a couple of baby straddlers and stuff like that died around the universe. I think it would have been better had they just had that kind of story with the Tuffle or the Sufurian kind of approach, because they started doing it all stupid when they started, like, I didn't like the fact that it went from being about, like, the Sufurians versus the Saiyans, and then kind of transformed into this kind of, I'm going to infect everybody and fight Goku. And it just kind of started to wind me up when things started to happen that wouldn't necessarily have happened. And then the dialogue kind of got a little bit crap as well with certain things they were saying that didn't make a whole lot of sense with the rest of the story. And it just got... And this is my overall opinion of GT is good ideas, poor execution, and...
But how can you complain when you saw a golden ape, Super Saiyan 4, and a nice looking baby? That's weird. But, you know, it looked good. It looked good. I know the dialogue was a bit dodgy. Very dodgy. Actually, I can't even defend the dialogue. But it looked good. We saw a golden ape.
I feel like you know, the baby arc being one of the things, it has its huge potential. One of the people on that video that Kanji mentioned commented about Baby, you know, had a good decent argument saying that people like Baby because of his concept, not necessarily the way they portrayed him or the way they actually executed his character. And I think, you know, fair point, you know, fair play. I feel like that's a really good point to make when you're actually talking about Baby. But considering the fact that GT started off slowly and
Very slow.
It's very slowly, and it's hard to actually feel sympathy for the story going forward when your first 13 episodes are so abysmal. I mean, and it says something in terms of like the worst 13 episodes.
To me, the first 13 episodes were Toei going, nah, Dragon Ball Z was crap. What you guys want is more Dragon Ball. And
Yeah,
then
that's
they were
exactly
like,
what it was.
but we've got to set it afterwards. Like, you guys don't know what you want. You're fed up with Dragon Ball Z. You've just seen all of that. We can write Dragon Ball better than Toriyama can. We're taking it back to Dragon Ball, and we're going to borrow everything from Dragon Ball, even rehash all the old stories with big monsters terrorizing towns that want to marry random people, oolong.
Or a
and
man
then
dressed as a woman, you know, try to...
Yeah,
Who's-
and then it's just... It's, again, my recurring thing that comes into this. I'm just... Fuck you, GT! Fuck you! I get angry every time I think about the fucking thing.
I feel like when you think about GT, though, I mean, it's really kind of an unfair argument. Something I want to kind of get into a little bit more on this is it's really hard to think of GT outside of the story that we actually got. And I know that's actually kind of a weird argument, but I feel like the point is we're supposed to be trying to... I want to think outside the box a little bit more. It's like what GT could have been if it was given the right amount of opportunity, or if it was for some reason just as successful as GT or Super Z at that point, or enough to keep it going for more than just 64 episodes and they didn't have to rush these arcs. And I think one of the problems with it is it's hard to think of GT as anything other than look for the Dragon Balls, fight Baby, fight Super Vegeta, and then fight the Shadow Dragons. But I mean, if I'm sure, like, even if the Shadow Dragons were, and it is, I will not let anyone tell me that that's not the perfect concept for the end of the series, just having the MacGuffin of the series come back and bite you in the ass in a very big way.
Well, the one thing I would change about that, if I can just interject, is I hate the fact that they all hate Goku, but they don't seem to hate Bulma, even though she's the fucking reason that they all got made wished on. Like, if they'd had more against Bulma, and she had a bigger part in that, and it was more, and maybe they went back for the people that were involved in the wishes, and for whatever reason, people couldn't fight them, so it gave every character a chance to wrap up an arc. Like,
hunt down Oolong.
Exactly, yeah, like, seriously, if they had things where they were coming back to Oolong for the Panties wish and stuff like that, and then they were going after, Pilaf and everything like that, and then they tried to go after Piccolo because of Piccolo Daimao and stuff like that, if they had done all of that, it would have been so much cooler, because we would have got spots with everybody, but they wanted everything to be about Goku, and I appreciate that it was the Goku show and he was the main character. But the thing that pisses me off was the fact that they did away with all of the cool character development, all of the cool characters, and people blame Toriyama for the fact he forgets about his characters, but look what Toei does when they get hold of it as well. They literally sit down and just went, no, he's right, let's just use Goku. And they literally just take him, and they fuck everybody else aside, and at least Toriyama, when he's done all this stuff with Vegeta and everything in Super, as people want to moan about everything with Gohan and all these other characters being written aside, at least he has actually kept a couple of characters in the loop. He's even brought one back with Trunks and tried to make him relevant again. But GT literally just fucked everybody off and went, Goku, let's ride his dick! And this is the thing that winds me up. Like, it could have been so much better. The concepts were good, the execution was poor, and the fact that nobody turned around to the head writer and went, you know what, you guys could probably do to sit there and rewatch some of it and then tell me that it's not a good idea. That's the stuff that winds me up. And sorry, I'm going on a bit of a rant now.
But that's the thing. I actually do think that they did try and rewatch it, because from the first 13 episodes and throughout the series itself, you can tell that they are massive Dragon Ball fans and they're legitimate fans. They try to reenact the whole Dragon Ball arc, but one thing they forgot was, and they made a massive mistake, of course, the whole making Goku into a kid, but okay, put that aside. They thought to themselves, alright, cool, let's have the adventures of Goku again. But we have to remember that throughout Dragon Ball and later on in Z, and definitely in Super, where they've noticed it, that they always pair Goku up with someone, so he always plays off someone. Yes, he was naive at the time, and that's how it really worked. The story worked and unfolded in Dragon Ball. Bulma being that person. So I think they tried to replace Bulma with Pan, but then Pan is a bit weird. Goku, as you said, Kanji, in the other video as well as earlier, that he's lost his naivety, he lost his innocence, he's lost his boyhood stupidity and worldly awareness. And I think they should have paired him up. And people take the piss and say, oh, it's a Goku show. And that is the most valid criticism, because they should have paired him up with with a person we can also invest in, not a new character such as Pan, but someone maybe a Goten, a Trunks, heck, Vegeta. We now know from Super the potential gold Goku and Vegeta give.
The one thing I would say about that, and I think it's a good point, the reason Pan didn't work, because Pan is, in retrospect, she's not much different than Bulma was in Dragon Ball.
She's a lot. Actually, no, forget it. Don't worry, continue.
But Bulma was also, she complained a lot. She, everyone hates Pan because she complains a lot. The difference between them was Bulma was useful in her technology savvy and everything. I mean, she played a major role. And the reason that GT fails in that is because they separate that one personality into two roles with Pan being Pan being Bulma's like crazy, stupid, like always getting into trouble side, and like overly emotional. And then what is it? Gil? What is it?
Gil.
Gil. He's the smart guy. Like, he's the one who's technology savvy just because he's a bit of technology
himself.
And that's the thing, like, without that, like, it's not that Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball GT were different. I think they had the right idea. It's just that their characters were thinner than they were in Dragon Ball. They literally tried to make up for it by coming up with other characters. And then at the same time, like, Trunks was kind of taking on the role of, like an oolong, kind of a smarter, like a world smart kind of guy, as opposed to the two people that he's with, but also the one-time failure Yamcha and Puar type of character as well. So it was a weird, like, I understood the logic behind their choices, but at the same time, it didn't work. I feel like they realized that it didn't work sometime in the first couple of episodes. They tried to course correct, and it just didn't work after that.
The thing for me, sorry.
I'm just saying, like, and that is the thing that I have a hard time with. That's the thing that I feel so sad about, is I do think it's an underappreciated series. I do think it's an underappreciated story, but it never got a chance to grow. And it had really interesting concepts, especially at the end, and that they literally did not have time to explore, and they had to do the basic bare minimum of it. I know Herms pointed out with the Super 17 arc very recently, when he's been going through it, that it would have been wise, because they had Goku fighting Frieza and Cell. It would have been wise to bring these all guys back, and maybe they're stronger than they were, but have them fight Vegeta and have them go after, because they wanted to fight Vegeta. They wanted to kill Vegeta because Vegeta killed most of them.
Yeah.
And that would have been interesting. Like, that would have been, if they had time and they played it out perfectly, that would have been the best thing to possibly do. But they didn't do it. Or what you were saying earlier, where it's like, we could have seen Trunks and Goten working together, and we could see Pan and Oob and all these people working together, and not just one shot or maybe two shots of these guys going, yeah, Ki Blast, kill everybody, and we're all good friends. Yeah, this is super easy. And if it was a legitimate threat, then that would have been an arc that could have gone on for 20 episodes, and we would have been really excited about it.
Would the fusion between Pan and Oob be called Pube? No, honestly, like,
Dimzy, the caliber of conversation is just dropped.
Pan and Oob, and I'm like, would they legitimately call it Pube?
It would be.
Yeah, probably, or Poob.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. Yeah, Pube. Wow.
God damn it. Well, the thing I was going to say about the characters was kind of like, look, my take on the characters at this point was, unfortunately, Trunks should have been, they played Trunks off of being such a weakling as well. Like, he literally, on no less than like 3 occasions, gets the Super Saiyan kicked out of him by people on random planets, bearing in mind that, like, Frieza was supposed to be the strongest in the universe at one point, and enslaved all these planets and whatnot, but then they go to a couple of these planets, and they're just being, like, whipped out of, like, Trunks is just being tossed aside, which I find insulting, like, when I watch it. Like, the logic and flaws in there is a bit lame, and I'd have rather they'd made a wish on the Dragon Balls to take all the Super Saiyan abilities away from them or something, or revert them back to their, like, lesson basics or something like that, which would still have pissed me off, but had at least bought into it when they got their asses beat. But the thing, as far as the characters go, look, Pan irritated me when I watched it, mainly because they literally just use her as, like, filler for a lot of it. Like, literally, like, she kind of goes off and gets lost quite a few times, and she plays the really stupid damsel in distress kind of role, when realistically she shouldn't be in distress because of how strong she should naturally be. And the thing that annoys me is she's so emotional that they miss so many opportunities to make her just like her dad was, and give her insane rage boosts and stuff like this, and really play into stories where she could have actually been useful. If they didn't want to give her the kind of smart, intelligent role, because they had Gil or Giru to do that, they could have had her to be this amazing rage boost thing. And they missed the chance to make her a Super Saiyan as well, which would have made her so much more likable to so many people, because she'd have actually kind of been able to somewhat catch up with a lot of the people. And I think that one of the reasons people resent her so much is not just being a damsel in distress and being over unemotional and annoying, it's also because she actually is supposed to be really strong, but just never lives up to the hype. Which is one reason I think a lot of people love her in Super at the moment, is because aside from being a baby and having very little character, she's actually doing a lot better than she ever did in GT.
She's actually a prodigy. She's even more of a prodigy than Gohan was.
Exactly. But that to me is how she always should have been, because that's how she was played off at the end of Z. She's flying around the earth and everything like that and doing laps and blah blah blah. She's like, obsessed with Goku as well, to the point where she's so likely to stand by his side. She was the daughter of Videl, and obviously, she's the daughter of Mr. Satan. So there's two people that are going to push her strongly into martial arts. She should have been smart because she was like Gohan and everything like that. And Videl seemed like a good mom. She had the perfect foundation to be the best character, like, in your sort of how she should be in the future. So when GT takes it and then spits on it and goes, "No, Goku, more Goku." And just to piss you off because you think he should be old, we're going to make him young. And you're going to have to watch him grow up again. That's what winds me up about the character choices. Not to mention the fact they just fucking rip Trunks out of the story, pretty much.
True. But the thing is, apart from all these flaws, and there are a lot of flaws and missed opportunities, as Mark touched on a little bit earlier, the whole concept, for example, of stuff biting you back in the ass, Baby's whole story arc, the Shadow Dragon's story arc, it all made sense, kind of. If you were to, unlike, let's say, Super, where you have the Future Trunks arc, where you kind of have to think about it to kind of force it to make sense, GT had the storyline to puzzle together, so it just makes sense without you being confused, and you're like, you know what, that's a nice little
simple story
callback to this. Yeah, it's very simple, but at the same time, it really does strike a chord if you think about it deeply. But they just flopped it in every other way through these missed opportunities, through insulting the audience's intelligence. And that was, I think, GT's biggest flaw. They just thought we were just a bunch of idiots, and they're like, hey, yeah, Goku, he's a good guy. He's the only character you need to think about. But then again, nah, you can't. I was about to say it was in 97 or so, but that's no excuse. That's no excuse at all.
GT.
I feel like, and not to interrupt, I feel like in terms of just jumping off of that, in terms of what GT was trying to do and what GT's whole story was, I very much agree in the sense that, to me, one of the coolest things you could do with actually telling any type of story is just find some time, some way, somehow to define it in a way where, it's always been happy-go-lucky. They were always able to save the world and everything. One of the reasons the Shadow Dragon arc is so amazing is because it does kind of put that stuff back in your face, where it's like, you cannot win this many times without some kind of negative energy and everything. Your good fortune has literally been building up into negative energy this entire time, and it's going to come back and bite you in the ass. And I think that that's actually really good storytelling. If they had time and it wasn't just played off as a joke, where only Nova and Omega, Nova, Omega, and Ice are the only serious dragons. If they were all serious, and what Kanji was talking about earlier, if they had taken time where all these dragons who were born out of all these wishes from all these different people came and took revenge on them, because they don't want to exist just as much as nobody wants them to exist. They kind of hate their existence to some point. It was at least to some degree, the one who hates the panties hates the panties. They hate that they had to have been born by this, but they are who they are, and they have their mission, they have their desires within them, and it plays off very well. Where it's well, we thought we were doing something good. Well, you were. You might have, but that doesn't stop it from being selfish. And I think that's also a very interesting lesson, where it's nothing you do is selfless.
Yeah, see, I mean, what I would do personally with that, as I was saying earlier about making them go after the people responsible for the wish, the thing that I like to think of it is kind of if let's say everybody on Earth knew about the Dragon Balls, and so people had just made wishes and blah, 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 blah. Are we to expect that the dragons only go after one of the people who's involved in a lot of those wishes? No, they're going to go after everybody involved in the wish, in my opinion. And that's kind of why I'd like to see, more and more and more of these dragons going after the people responsible for their birth, in the same light as the fact that you're saying they don't want to exist and blah, blah, blah. It would be nice if they had to go after the people responsible for it, and that would wrap up an awful lot of people's character arcs. Now, what I would have liked to have seen of the last Shadow Dragon would literally have been the most selfish wish that we never saw. And that selfish wish would have been Goku and Oob wishing for water and food and stuff for Oob's village so that Goku could train Oob selfishly so he could have him to himself. And that would be where the dragon comes out and goes, no, look, you've been abusing the power, and that wish was really where you've taken it too far, and that was literally for a selfish purpose for yourself, so you didn't have to go and do the work of getting the water and food for this guy's family.
And that's actually kind of cool, because I remember that you were telling us, especially in the series, watching it again recently, I'm pretty sure they're like, I was born of this wish, and I was born of this wish, but once Ice and Omega show up, they just stop that for whatever reason. I think they might have run out of wishes, so that would have been kind of cool to see, like, and also, like, yeah, it's like, you think you're being selfish, you think you're being, yay, yeah, Goku, you're so nice. But, like, it's super fucking selfish. Like, everything he does, everything everyone does is super selfish. It's
And tying in line with what I was saying about them going after the people, that would have made that the last dragon would have gone after Goku and Oob, which would have really had the end of Dragon Ball Z kind of linear with the end of GT, where the two main characters of that now are the ones that fight the last dragon. And that's why I thought it would be really cool. But
and then one going after Vegeta for the Boo. For the Boo wish.
Yeah.
One going after Gohan and Co. for wishing back stuff from Cell. Going after Bulma.
Going after
for wishing.
Future Trunks because of the one made to wish him back to life and stuff like that. We could have got
that's
that
the
last
Cell
cameo.
one, yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, we could have got a cameo out of it. But the thing that would have been really cool to me is had they really dragged that out for quite a while over quite a few episodes, the dragons could have been fighting all their battles at the same time. So we could have dragged the fights out without dragging the fights out, if you know what I mean. Because you could have some episode that was like based around watching Gohan and Co. struggle about the wish made for Future Trunks coming back to life, at the same time as having Vegeta versus the one that was spawned from Oob's wish Boo's wish and everything like that. And they could have also been fighting them. And that could have been a really cool idea for, like, you know, the Namekians and stuff on their planet to get involved, because they know the key to, like, you know, helping them out or something. They can find out and help them suppress the energy or something, and help the weaker characters win because they created them. So they had to get in touch with, like, Mori or something like that. They could have done so many cool little twists with it, where, like, they can't beat the dragons without the Namekians' help, and they're the original creators of their set of Dragon Balls, for the sake of GT, obviously, because we didn't have, like, as Zalama and stuff like that. So, like, if it was all pertaining to that, then they could have really been helped, and they could have summoned Porunga to help them, like, with that kind of stuff. And that's the kind of stuff that I would have liked to have seen, but didn't see. But anyway, sorry, I've kind of gone off on a tangent for long enough.
No, fine.
No, I completely agree, guys, and I feel like maybe we should wrap this up in the next couple minutes here. But I mean, like, one thing I want to hear if anyone's watching this, and really good ideas. Like, honestly, I feel like I said before, it's really hard to think of GT outside the box, as to, instead of, we just have to focus more on, like, the two things that we got that were really, really underdeveloped, and think about, like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if this, that, or the other, and yada, yada, yada. I think we've kind of put up some really awesome ideas one way or the other about how they could have dealt with the Super 17 arc, how they dealt with the Shadow Dragon arc, and everyone else in between. And I honestly, I want to hear anyone who's listening to this. Like, what are your thoughts? Like, what do you think? Could you think of, like, a story arc you would really like to see set in that timeline with those characters, with that strength, and all this stuff that's going on in that kind of aspect outside of GT? I feel like that's probably another video just in general.
GT.
Inside Dragon Ball GT.
Sorry.
Yeah, like that's we don't need to go there. But yeah, guys, kind of an impromptu video, really, just kind of a Real Theories podcast, just kind of something I want to start trying. So make sure to tell me what you think about this. It's very casual, not really a specific topic, but just kind of having people on and talking about it, kind of like what we always do, but more long form, more like 30 minutes or so. So anyway, even though I didn't introduce them, I'm sure you already know or you've already checked it out. Please go check these guys out. Thank you so much, Kanji. Thank you so much, Dimzy, for coming out and joining me with this.
Anytime.
Pubes anytime. Pubes.
Hashtag GDD. God damn it, Dimzy.
GDD. God damn it, Dimzy.
I may be WKK, but you're GDD.
I personally, what I think is I like the couple name for Pan and Oob is Pubes. I like that.
Honestly, it has to be pubes. Because I'm like, Pan, Oob, I'm like, pubes. Straight up pubes.
There you go. There's the last fight in the Shadow Dragon. Oob isn't strong enough, so he has to fuse with Pan, and then become Pubes, and Goku fight the last Shadow Dragon.
Exactly. Hairy pubes.
That's just weird. That's just weird. I don't even want to think about a male-female fusion and what that might even remotely
Hermaphrodite!
Anyway, guys, we hope you liked the video, and we're going to catch you on the next one. Bye!
Bye!
I beat you to it.